Hi, my name is Lisa Reed Preston, and welcome to my studio. For the last 10 years, I've been a teacher here in Nashville, and I've had the joy of teaching science, mathematics, STEM, and robotics. And when I come home at the end of a day, I love to express myself creatively. So I'm very excited to be able to share with you a combination of both science and art. But first, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I am married to a wonderful man named Josh, and he and I have been together for, get this, 27 years. I know, it's a long time. I was very honored to be Teacher of the Year in Nashville twice. I have art supplies everywhere in my space, but I try to keep them organized. I'm also a digital artist, so I do a lot of work on my laptop and on my tablet, which I'm very excited about. And for inspiration, I keep notes from kids from previous school years because they really help to inspire me. When I was a teacher, I was known as Miss Preston. And here in this corner is a little picture of my hometown in Maine. Only a few thousand people live there, much smaller than Nashville. I was hoping to get back this summer, but because of all of the things going on, it wasn't possible. This is one of my favorite gifts from a student. They know how much I love science and space, and they bought me this beautiful artistic representation of our planets and our solar system. And these are some of my paintings. Oh, not the cactus, that was also a gift from a student. I keep all my art supplies tidy as I can. You'll notice there's paint, there are things for mosaics, there's random electrical equipment and screen printing. And then this is just a stack of some of my paintings that I don't have room to hang. Today we're going to be doing an experiment using pendulums and paint. The materials you're going to need: a couple of trash bags or a stack of newspaper, a sharpened pencil, scissors and some string, I'm using embroidery floss, a weighted washer. If you don't have one that's heavy enough, it's okay to use two of the same size. You'll also need some form of pole or rod to hang your pendulum from. In addition, I have paint, water, and 3 paper cups. Those paper cups, I probably won't use all 3, but I like to have an extra just in case. And then finally, we have crayons and markers and other artistic material for the end of the process. We're going to be creating art with pendulums, and then we will be trying to turn them into some form of creative expression. Here's an example of one I made earlier. Now let's get ready to set it up. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take those trash bags and cut them up. You'll notice that I'm cutting the sides of the bags. So we'll cut along here so that it will open, and then we'll cut along this other side as well. Once you have the bag cut out, you're going to spread it open and lay it down like a drop cloth. You'll do the same with the second bag. It doesn't have to be perfect. When you're done with the second bag, spread that out and overlap it just slightly with the first bag. When you're done, it should look like this. Now it's time to set up a place to put your pendulum. I've used a broomstick and 2 dining room chairs. Make sure that all of these things are situated on top of your garbage bag drop cloths. Now it's time to make the pendulum. To make the pendulum, we're going to use some string. About 12 inches will be fine. You can usually measure 12 inches if you go from about your elbow to your wrist. And now I'm going to tie a knot around my washers with my string. Now, if you're wondering what a pendulum is, all a pendulum is a weight that hangs from the end of a string that can freely move in any direction. Voila! Freely move in any direction. Now we're going to attach our pendulum to our broom handle. To make the connection, simply wrap it around and tie a knot. Now the next thing we're going to need is our paper clip, and you're going to bend the paper clip into the shape of a W. So to do that, I'm just going to bend this first part out like this. Bend that all the way out and then straighten that. Looks like a W. Then we're going to insert this through the center of our washers. And you'll notice that it just kind of hangs out. Here I have my paint. I've chosen red because it's my favorite color. You can choose your favorite color or even a series of colors. We'll talk about that later. I have my paper cup and I have some water. I'm going to mix the paint and the water at a 1-to-1 ratio. That means the same amount of paint that I put in, I'm going to put that much water. Oh, too much water, so I'm going to pour a little out. And then I'm just stirring with a craft stick that I have laying around, but you can use a craft stick, a paintbrush. You could also use takeout chopsticks. Those are some of my favorite stirring tools. And you want your paint to become kind of the consistency of ink. Now mine's a little too runny, so I'm going to add a little more paint. That looks pretty good. So the next step is to take your sharpened pencil, which I have right here, and you're going to poke a hole in a second cup at the very bottom. Try not to poke too big of a hole. We're going to do the same thing on the sides of the cups on opposite sides near the top, about right here. Perfect. Now, holding the cup in your hand with a finger covering the hole at the bottom, pour your paint into your cup with the hole. Be sure to place your paper directly underneath your pendulum. Now it's time to attach the cup. I'm going to use the W on this side to attach to that side of the cup, and then the other side of the W to attach to the other side of the cup. And then the final thing is you're going to pull back, and as you release, let go. Also, you'll uncover the hole and kind of swing it in almost a circular motion. Take a moment to think about what that might look like on your paper. Any predictions on the shape? Let's find out. Now, if you don't like your shape, start it in the other direction. Once the paint starts to wind down, if you still have paint in the cup, you can swing it around one more time. Notice the circular pattern that it's making. What do you think would happen if I changed the velocity? The velocity is the speed at which it's going in a certain period of time. Now, I want to get a little creative, and I'm going to add a second color of paint. I picked an orange paint. I'm watering it down and mixing it up. Looks good. I'm gonna take that cup that we have the red paint in with the hole in the bottom. I'm gonna pour my orange paint right in there. Now, part of what you'll notice about the pendulum is that when I pulled it back, it had forward motion. And it not only continued to move back and forth, but it also kind of swung in a circle. But let's see what happens when we add a second color. Makes a beautiful geometric pattern. And you can see that the red has sort of mixed in with some of the orange, which gives it a really cool look, I think. Now, there are some variables or some things that you can change about this experiment. One of the things that you could change would be the length of the string. What do you think would happen if it had a longer string? Or if it had a shorter string? While our painting's dry, let's talk about why that worked. So a pendulum works by converting energy back and forth. It's kind of like being on a roller coaster ride. When the bob or the weight is the highest or the furthest from the ground, it has the maximum stored energy or potential energy. So as it swings forward, it carries with it its maximum kinetic energy. And every time it moves from high to low to high, it's converting between potential, kinetic, and potential energy. Gravity plays a huge part in this process. And remember, gravity is that force that pushes things down towards the center of the earth. The next thing you should be thinking about is, what can you make with this beautiful piece of art? I showed you earlier one that came out that kind of looked like a butterfly. This one, I'm thinking, might actually turn into a flower garden. Sometimes these things don't work out. I tried one, and during that project, it got too much paint on it. And instead of it becoming a mistake, I turned it into a very happy surprise. To do that, I just used the paper and the paint that was on it and moved it around while the paint was wet over my drop cloth so I didn't make a mess. And then once the entire paper was covered, I let it dry. I hope you've enjoyed our pendulum painting and have a better understanding of pendulums and how they transfer energy between potential and kinetic energy. I'd love to see the artwork that you create.